Welcome to the Working Class Nerds Podcast. This is episode 260. Cue the intro. That's right, Fetta's starting it off today. Marcus is here, and this week's episode, we're talking with Hoodguard. He's coming straight from McCrag. He left his brothers in the Ultramarines to be here today. Welcome to the show, man. What have you been up to?
I appreciate you all having me on here. I've been doing a lot of painting this week. It's kind of consumed most of my content over the past month, so that's what's been on my plate.
What are you painting?
So I have a couple of competitions. My very first painting competitions that I've ever done that have been going on this past month. The first one is for the Army Painter, who I've been doing some work with, reviewing some products and stuff, but they invited me to be a part of their Warhammer games. So a bunch of creators come together to paint this dragon miniature that comes in one of their paint sets. And then the other one is for a charity competition for pancreatic cancer. So I'm painting a small, spooky diorama for that.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
And so where are you guys painting these? Where are you painting the dragon? Do you have your own, or is everybody kind of getting together to paint it?
Got you. So individual, everybody gets their own dragon, has to paint it in their own style. That one actually had to be submitted, what's today, Wednesday? On Monday. So that one's done. It's sitting on my desk over here.
Let's see.
She's
it.
beautiful. No, I saw it on the socials. You got to check Hoodguard out on the social medias.
Here he is.
It came out amazing.
Look at that.
Focus, but yeah, my purple dragon here that I painted, all using Army Painter paints. So it was a bit of a stretch. It's the largest model I've ever painted. I've only been painting for about 6 months, so I don't have a ton of experience. But it was a good learning.
So
Yeah.
you're in the presence of another minis painter, Mr. Fetta. I mean, Dr. Fetta. He's been painting Star Wars, Legion, and Moonstone, and I think he's painted Ultramarine once. But he has his own minis channel. And
That's awesome.
yeah.
I've been wanting to paint more, like outside of Warhammer. I think there are a lot of IPs that have really good models, including Star Wars Legions. So I'll have to check you out, man.
Yeah, believe it or not, I have not painted a single model from GW.
Really?
Not at all. I've painted Star Wars, I've painted Marvel, I've painted all kinds of, small, I guess you could call them indie game companies like Goblin King Games. I'm really big into, 3D print STL file creators like Titan Forge, Arch Villain, One Page Rules, those kind of things.
Yeah.
So I paint a lot from all of those. Never GW. I can't afford those models.
Yeah. No, it's a little ridiculous. Cannot lie about that. I feel like because, I got into Warhammer through Thor first. Like that's what I wanted to paint was like all the stuff that I had been reading about. So that's how they trap you, though.
That's why I abstain completely. I can't go down that hole.
I find that the hardest part for me is I want to paint them, but the fact that I have to glue them together is what makes it really hard for me. Because I feel like I could build a cabinet, but I don't know if I could glue a little tiny mini together.
I think that is one of the more enjoyable parts for me because you can do a lot of like kit bashing. One of my favorite YouTubers I watch is Pete the Wargamer. He does a ton of different like kit bashes and stuff, just putting a bunch of parts together, and you realize like how moldable plastic is and how many products there are out there for just custom stuff you want to sculpt. So really just looking at the box art and saying like, this is cool, this is something I can work with, but I can make it cooler if I really want to.
Yeah.
So that's why I like the building aspect.
That's awesome.
I think it's amazing, and I also find it therapeutic for me to watch. So when you guys are painting, like when Fetta's doing it, he has like a really chill lo-fi beat, and he's just talking away and like that really fine brush, and he's doing a stripe on something, and it's super relaxing for me. It's almost like I can understand why some people like ASMR, right? Just that calm movement is calming to me. because
Yeah,
I'm
it's a
always
sensory
at
thing.
100 miles. Yes, for sure. It's like 100 miles an hour for me at all times. So having something like that calm me down. Believe it or not, I've been at night. I've been listening to people read lore before bed
Yep,
for like a half an hour,
that's
and
what I do.
I've been doing the Elden Ring. I've been doing Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Warhammer. I actually did Marvel Secret Wars, and then believe it or not, I did somebody was reading the Dungeons and Dragons, one of the like the campaigns,
Okay.
but they were just reading the campaign book.
Huh.
And I found it to be super. They're not like, you're not getting ASMR like this. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just them reading in their voices. There's this one dude. It's like that subtle tone, and it's just I don't know. I just
No, no.
find I find
definitely
all
do.
that to be calming, but then the frustration of taking that glue, and what if the glue slips and then the arm is in the belly?
Yeah, I mean it happens, but that again, that's the thing about plastic that I've learned is plastic glue can turn it into the like most moldable thing ever.
It turns it into jelly.
And you can really work with it. Exactly, it turns it just into jelly. But I feel you on the lore piece. That's like when I got started. I was listening to Luton a lot. It was a big Warhammer. He does video essays that are like 3 hours long. He has a really soothing, voice with a British accent that you just put it on in the background and just kind of lose yourself. And I've tried a little bit to. I think the way I deliver lore is different. It's not so much, sitting by the fire and reading you a tale. It's more like a college lecture on the lore, and that just kind of comes from my education background. But I appreciate those so much.
Absolutely.
Now, have you been playing any video games this week?
Oh yeah, Space Marine 2. I've been I think I have 80 hours in Space Marine 2 already.
Wow,
Dang.
that's awesome. Yeah.
So a lot of
So
the
it's bad?
PvP of that. Yeah, no, it's terrible. I hate it. But it's fantastic. I think it's a good continuation of the first game. The story is a little redundant. It does advance Titus, and you get to see some cool stuff. It was, lots of little lore tidbits for people who know, but still understandable for people who don't. So that's why I really appreciate it about it. I've been looking for a new PvP shooter to play for a while. I used to play a lot of Siege. I used to play a lot of Apex, but kind of quit those just because Warhammer didn't mesh with that content as much, and that's not what people were tuning in to see me do. And I could, do that with my friends later. But I've been wanting something that's competitive, and the PvP of it has been really fun. It's very like a little Gears of War-esque, but not as much cover. So
Yeah. Have you ever played the Dawn of War series?
yes, yeah, absolutely.
Dawn of War 2 is amazing.
Yeah. I think Dawn of War 2 is my favorite. I think Dawn of
Me
War
too.
Soulstorm is most people's like GOAT, which I think it may be the best like out of the games quality wise. But yeah, no, Dawn of War 2 is fantastic.
Dawn of War
I
2
actually need to get back into it.
Well, what's funny about Dawn of War 2 is, I have a hard time with like real RTSs because it's so much typing and I'm a terrible typer.
Yeah.
But what's nice about Dawn of War is almost like an action RPG with the RTS in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the story is so good.
Yeah.
And the hordes and
undefeated.
hordes and hordes. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. I love strategy games. I'm a big like Civ guy, and Stellaris. I really love just like resource management for some reason. Maybe it's like the organizing part of my brain that really likes that. But yeah, Dawn of War really, I think, ramps up the action in an RTS that others don't have, and that's why it's so fun.
Are you a professor?
I am not. I was in education for about 4 or 5 years. I did private and nonprofit STEM education and kind of program development. I'm still in the nonprofit space now, but I do programming for adults now in another field.
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Feta.
I have one quick question. I've noticed a trend in my local game stores and with tabletop wargaming in general. Why is everyone somehow tied to education?
You know what?
It's such a big theme.
It's crazy because literally just this past weekend I was at my local Warhammer store, and one of the guys who have talked to before but haven't really had real long conversations with. I found out what he does. He's a black hole astrophysicist at one of the universities in the city. And it's
what?
like, okay, that's a connection. Another guy I know is a math teacher, and it's like, I don't know what it is about education.
Something.
It just
Something.
there's something
I work in
about
higher ed.
Yeah.
It's. I don't know why everybody I talk to, they're an educator.
Yeah. It's great. I love educators.
Yeah.
Like they're great people overall. So.
But what does it say about us that we like to play with little toys?
That we have to be the adults around children for a large part of the day. So now we get to do our childish thing. I think that's the root of it.
Beautiful.
Wow, that was so well said.
I appreciate it. Again, the education part, right? Just lots of talking. I also think streaming really helps with talking. I was when I was in education, we had a couple of classes on like professional development for like high school kids. And one of the things that we had them do was stream, like a small stream, like a local one for like their school or whatever, to just help with like extemporaneous talking, and kind of like being able to have a flow of consciousness that makes sense. Because that's just a skill that you kind of have to develop, and if you don't test that muscle, it's not gonna get strong. So
I did it. I streamed for 4 years, 3 days a week, and it does teach you how to talk to yourself but make sense.
Yeah.
It for sure does. And I find that I'm an extrovert anyway, but being on the podcast and getting to talk to so many awesome people helps as well.
Yeah.
And gets you to have that skill. So Feta, what did you do this week?
To be honest with you, just been working. So haven't had much time for games other than playing a little bit of Monster Hunter Rise. So one of the other games that we'll be covering in the next couple of weeks here on Working Class Nerds is Wild Hearts, which is a monster hunting type of game. And it kind of drove me down that path. I was playing some Dauntless. I was playing some Monster Hunter. I just downloaded Monster Hunter World. So I'm kind of like in that space right now. Mm-hmm. That's what I've been doing this week.
How many papers have you graded?
Oh, God. Don't please stop talking to me about it. I just got done grading at what we're recording at 8:26. I got done grading at 8:04. And I got to do more tomorrow and make another exam. It's beautiful.
That's
1,000?
I wouldn't say 1,000, but it's up there.
Yeah, that's why I enjoyed, like, I worked in schools, but I was not a, like, classroom teacher, right? I never had to, I got to, like, work with kids. I got to teach them things, but I was not responsible for, like, their basic skills and their grades. Man, kudos to you. But I have a question about, Monster Hunter in general. I played Monster Hunter World. That was maybe the first one I'd gotten into. Saw it a lot when I was growing up, but it never kind of drew me in. What is it that kind of entices you about that, like, genre of game?
So you'll never guess, but it's the gathering part.
Okay.
So it's the gathering stuff to make your supplies and prepare for the hunts kind of thing.
Sure.
That part scratches a different part of my brain. And then obviously, like, going to find the monster and beat the monster, it's the Monster Hunter series makes that really feel like a challenge that you're overcoming.
Yeah.
At least in early game. Late game, I can't speak to because not there yet.
Sure.
But, I don't know. It's like that preparatory phase that is my favorite part.
Yeah. I think that's a large part of, like, survival games and just... Honestly, a lot of games in general now just have a crafting mechanic or a gathering mechanic in it because it gives you something idle to do or at least fills game time. And if you introduce it in really interesting ways, I think it can really make a game.
Yeah, 100%. And I would say my favorite genre of games would be survival. So that part kind of goes with it, and I can play with a different group of people that may not really enjoy that so much.
Yeah.
And it kind of meshes our different game styles and makes the group better overall, I think.
I do agree with you. I'm trying to think the right way to say it. But I find like with the Monster Hunter style game, the hardest part for me is not having like a goal. Like you're going after this monster, but you have no idea how long this monster is going to live for.
Mm.
Like I like seeing that health bar.
I don't.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I don't. I mean, yes, it's good. And games like we've been covering here, the First Descendant, where you see that health bar, and that's the goal you're working towards. I like the other side of that, where I don't know, and you can attack certain parts of the monster to get the pieces that you want, and then it'll also affect how it reacts and the timing of the different attacks that it does. You kind of have to like pay more attention versus just smack at it until the bar goes down.
And I think that is almost, I don't know. I've tried to play Monster Hunter a lot, like really get into it, but it's never grabbed me in a way that like made me obsess over the game like other games have, right? And I'm not sure if it's like that part, having to like study the monster and like understand, where you need to hit it and do all this stuff. But it's not necessarily that I don't like the detail, because I play Tarkov too, right? So it's like detail and like really extra intricate shit is not like something that I, want. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I guess? Is that okay?
Let it fly, baby.
But yeah, like it's not the detailed part of it. I don't know why that part doesn't grab me as much.
Have you ever played Elden Ring?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And do you find that to be more challenging than a Monster Hunter game?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so
isn't it supposed to be?
See, I don't find it to be harder.
You also say that that's the hardest game you've ever played in your entire life, bud.
Right, but I feel like Monster Hunter, or I'm playing Wild Hearts, I feel like the challenge in that is harder for me than Elden Ring. Elden Ring is dodge, attack, dodge, attack. There's a lot more to Monster Hunter or Wild Hearts than that.
Yeah. Well, I think there's more of a, I don't know, a planning to Monster Hunter and Wild Hearts, right? Whereas, an Elden Ring or a Souls-like game, it's really more technical skill. It's like, which one is going to be easier for you? So if you're really good technically and can do that timing and kind of read characters really easily, I think, yeah, it probably will be a little bit easier for you. I think that's maybe why I think it's hard, because the technical skill for it,
Oh, don't let me fool you. Elden Ring is the hardest game I've ever played. I think I've rage quit a few times talking with friends playing that game. So,
have you played any other Souls games besides Elden Ring?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I've never. It's Elden Ring and I have a very strong love-hate relationship right now. I finally got to the capital after I don't know how many hours, 50 hours, 60 hours. Lindell, because I just explore. Yeah. But the nice part is now I'm there, but also the problem is I don't have enough time right now to invest into like keeping that technical skill up. So now when I get in there, I just get destroyed and I get frustrated and shut it off. Yeah, so I've kind of pushed forward.
One thing I hate about Souls games, right, is it's not how difficult they are. It's that there is one aspect of the game that they make difficult on purpose that I don't think needs to, and it's give me a freaking quest log so I know where to go on places. Don't make me remember what Ronnie said like 6 days ago when I played this game in order to be able to like progress the quests without just wandering for hours. I feel like it's cool to kind of like have to know where to go, and I personally didn't like that.
But that also, I'm going to play the devil's advocate to that is
Please.
When you first walk out of the church, when the first guy starts and he has the white mask and he's gone, and then you run into him because you have no idea, and all of a sudden you find him again, and he's like, "Hey, it's funny I see you here. Would you like to do this for me?" And you're like, "Wait a minute, this guy is here now? Wait, how did that even happen?" Or like you said, you find that Celovus guy before you see Ronnie, and then you realize he's a dirtbag. But if you do it, you're going to get it's how it all connects over time blows me away.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I'm going to say that semi-linear path of, hey, here's a quest, go do it. That's the MMO player in me.
Okay. No, that's fair. That's fair. I think I'm just thinking about it from someone who like put Elden Ring down for a little bit, and because I put it down for a little bit, I came back and I didn't know at all what to do, and I had to start over. And that's happened like 2 or 3 times with me playing Elden Ring, and it's just like a small like quality of life thing where I'm like otherwise I agree, the game is a 10 out of 10, definitely deserved game of the year. I love that game, but it's just like that one part about Souls, and I'm like, I wish the story and what I was supposed to do was a little clearer sometimes.
Right. Like, at what point in history did an adventurer not keep a diary? They've always written it down.
Wow, that is a true story.
Yeah, that's fair.
We would have nothing if it wasn't for journals.
Yeah, it's true. Or once you talk to them, it does go to a journal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Didn't even
that's
think about that.
But I think that also kept Elden Ring really special for people, because you had that mysteriousness to it, and when you found it, and it made you focus, where you could space bar through the conversation and then just read the journal that says, oh, go over here, and you're like, all right, I got it, where now you're invested in listening to what that NPC has to say.
I don't know.
It does make you pay attention. I will say, like, the people who go through Elden Ring and do the whole, like, I don't know anybody who goes through the whole thing and doesn't, like, know at least some of the story, right? Like could give you a summary of it. So I definitely agree with that. It does make you pay attention more.
For sure.
Marcus, other than trying to fall asleep right now, what have you been up to this week?
Oh, I'm not falling asleep. I'm actually wired, because I've been looking forward to this episode for about 3 weeks, since I found Hood's channel. So as we mentioned, but we're going to be talking about it later, so I won't dive deep into Wild Hearts, but I have been playing Wild Hearts on my new laptop. It's fun, but I will say I'm old, and I'm going to preference that I'm an old man when I say this, and this is 100% the old man comment. I don't like it when they make you use new buttons. Like an attack, I'm so used to Elden Ring where right trigger and right bumper is attack, and now it's X and B, and
it's just a different game.
I know, but I'm just
it's not a new button. It's been there.
I know, but do you know how many times I hit right bumper to attack and it does nothing, and I'm like, oh god, and then you get smacked around. I'm just an old man. It's like, how about this? I'll use Call of Duty as an example.
Okay.
When I play Call of Duty, it's on keyboard and mouse, right? But their interact key is F. It does not matter what game I play with keyboard and mouse, that keybind, the interact button forever is moved to F, because I can't do E. I can't, that's strafing, right? Like forever, my F key is my interact key on keyboard and mouse. There's certain things that can't change.
You're
That's
just
like,
a stubborn old man.
Yes, 100%. Well, that's like in Wild Hearts, I think sprint. I forget what button sprint is. I think it's one
right
of the triggers.
bumper.
Yeah, right bumper. I still click the left stick for sprint.
Right bumper for sprint.
Thank you. Right,
That one
the
feels
left
awkward
stick.
to me.
The left stick is sprint and will forever be sprint. You know what I mean? Thank God Wild Hearts realized that, and left stick is still sprint, but it's also right bumper. That's just my bitch. But believe it or not, I do have a lot to say about it, but I'll get to that after. I'm really looking forward to Monday night. NHL 25 comes out, and I'm going full blown in that. I bought NHL 24 a few weeks ago just to play it, to prepare me whooping my
Just
son's
to waste
ass.
$60.
No. So NHL 24 was like $10.
Oh, well then, yeah, that's a steal. You gotta do that.
Right. And so I'm just preparing my son to get his ass whooped, like from the moment and he talks shit, but like, he's like, Daddy, you're going to let me score a goal? I'm like, buddy, no way.
Earn the goal.
Yeah, earn the goal. He's like, Daddy, it's 8-0. Suck less, pal. Suck less.
Did good.
get good.
He's a small child, mind you.
Yeah, he's 5 years old, but he's yeah. You teach him that there's certain things I won't like when we're playing street hockey in the yard. I'll let him score his goals and he can beat me because that's what you do, right? But when there's a controller in my hand, he can
All bets are off.
Yes, he can outbuild me in Minecraft. Like when we get involved, he builds a house in like 6 seconds, and I'm still on like the second layer going around with cobblestone, and he's got a diamond emerald like pattern. It's crazy. But anyway, so the reason why I'm looking forward to it is I think I spoke about it a few episodes ago. I haven't dove into a sports game in a long time, and I feel like where I'm at with my son playing hockey, I'm playing hockey, it's just there. I'm gonna give it a go and actually EA calls it something where you make like a fantasy team and you like recruit bad players and you have to play with them and build them up, and then you build like a franchise. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm actually going to do that, and it sounds really fun to me. So I pre-ordered it on Amazon, and it's going to get delivered on Monday. Nice. The last thing is, I didn't talk about it last week. I'm the biggest moron on the planet. So their Trials of Mana came out for the Switch in 2020. There's the new game called Visions of Mana, and that came out for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox. I purchased Trials of Mana thinking it was Visions of Mana for the Switch. Little to find out later, about 6 hours into the game, that this is the old game, not the new game, because it didn't get released on the Switch because the Switch is using 2001 graphics chips. Yeah. Or 2007 Android chips, I'm sorry. But my point is, I'm about 16 or 18 hours into Trials of Mana, and I love it. And maybe it's because of my home situation right now where I'm sitting in a little kid chair. I don't have my office. I don't have my desktop. I don't have a place to game. And we went to Florida a week or two ago or something, and I bought a Switch Lite for myself because my regular Switch, my son commandeers. And we were on a flight and we sat next to each other. So I bought it and I've been playing it and I love it. Like that JRPG sucked me right back in. And the one thing that I was curious when the game was going to get difficult. So it's been easy mode this whole time. And then all of a sudden I got into this room where this wall monster had 3 different phases: ice, like thunder and lightning, and fire. And he was going through these phases, and my party is 3-person party, and it's an action RPG. So my party is dead because I can't keep them alive because these spikes are coming up off the ground, and then he's doing his flame, and he's lighting the ground on fire, and you can't save them. It literally took me 25 minutes to beat this boss. But it's that feeling. I got the feeling that when I beat a boss in Elden Ring that I've been working on forever, or a boss in Star Wars: The Old Republic on hard mode or nightmare mode rating that you worked months trying to beat, you finally beat it, and I'm like, I'm sweating. My Switch is covered in hand sweat, and I'm like, this game isn't supposed to be this difficult. I bought it just to chill and like enjoy this game.
Yeah.
But I'm sucked back in, is what I'm trying to say, to this JRPG. And I don't want to put it down. And I'm not a big handheld guy. I never have been. I actually, a couple weeks ago, I think I said it to Feta, like, the screen is too small. And he's like, dude, my shit is sitting against my nostrils, and it's a big screen TV. And I do that, and now I'll play it before bed. Do you know how satisfying it is to play for 10 minutes before bed, in bed, playing a Switch, and you, like, even if you just go kill 5 enemies and then find a save point, you save it, you're like, I feel satisfied.
Yeah.
And the story, believe it or not, is good. I mean, it's a little hokey, but
sure.
what JRPG isn't?
No, all of them are. That's okay. I think that's. I think you can have a hokey story and still have a good game. So.
Oh my God, and so I retract all of my statements earlier about how gaming on a handheld is terrible, Because I'll tell you right now, when you don't have an office and you're used to it, having an office, the Switch is fucking awesome.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Because it really stinks sitting in the kid chair trying to play a game on a computer. You know?
Yeah.
It's just missing that. All right. Are you ready for this? Because I'm ready for this. This week, as we said earlier, Hoodguard's here. I don't know what it was. Space Marine 2. I was looking up something about Space Marine 2 to find out kind of where it fell in the timeline on YouTube. And then I was talking about it with a couple friends, Feta and Rayu. I mentioned it to another friend who plays Warhammer. And all of a sudden on my phone, I was looking for a book because, oh my God. Not in here. It's in my lunchbox. Titus.
Mm-hmm.
So, I did some research, and so I bought that book.
Okay.
And when I was looking for these books, Hoodguard popped up on my screen, and all of a sudden my feed was all of this Warhammer book stuff. And I'm like, man, these phones know me better than me, right? And there's Hoodguard with his hood on, and he's like, these are the 7 best beginner books to Warhammer. Or maybe it was 10. I don't know. I don't know how many books you were recommending.
Was this on TikTok or YouTube?
I can't remember.
Okay, because I have a beginner book video for each. It might have been TikTok then.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure.
It was probably YouTube if Marcus found it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm always on YouTube Shorts.
Okay,
but
gotcha.
Either way, I'm not sure. But I found Hoodguard. So then I fell down the Hoodguard rabbit hole of watching a few of his videos. Then I instantly messaged Feta and was like, bro, check this guy out. And he's like, oh my God, this is great. I said, I'm going to reach out. And so
Here we are.
Here we are today. And the algorithm wanted us to be friends.
Absolutely. I'm here for it.
So, first and the most important question is why content creation and why Warhammer?
Content creation, I started streaming maybe the end of 2017. At that point, I was kind of out of college. I could kind of go back to gaming. And I had hit up a friend who is one of my best friends I've known since 2012 at this point. Kind of about like what he's been playing. He had been playing recently, just because I had not been in the gaming world for maybe 3 years, really. So it was, I had taken a break. And so at that point, I didn't have any console or anything. Him and his friends were playing on PlayStation. I got a PlayStation 4. I was in like a student house near campus still. So just in a tiny room with not great internet, playing on a PlayStation, playing Siege, trying to stream with them. And so we started making content just because, like all friend groups do, you think you're funny. So you want other people to experience that too. Yeah. So you want other people to experience that too. And so we started just streaming Siege whenever we were around. And we shoot the shit in the PlayStation call, and eventually we made a podcast called The Four Hoodsmen, and it was me, my best friend, another one of our friends, and one of their friends, one of their mutual friends who I was introduced to, and we had a small gaming podcast. We only did maybe 7 episodes. It wasn't a lot, but we did have a streaming community that we started. So just trying to get a bunch of marginalized BIPOC people, LGBTQ people, to kind of come to a safe space and start streaming together and start supporting each other. And that was great. After a while, though, we kind of started doing our own things. I started doing my own streaming, kind of in COVID-esque times. It's kind of when I started doing my own stuff. And that's kind of like my content creation journey. Warhammer was... kind of converged. A friend of mine, Peter, one of my really, really good friends, started sending me Warhammer memes in 2019. I was not familiar. I didn't know, he was sending me contextless stuff. It was really weird at the time because I just kept seeing things about orcs and god emperors, and I had no idea. And so one day I was finally like, all right, I'll sit down, I'll see exactly what this latest meme that he sent me means. I found Luton on YouTube, and I was like, oh, this is a 3-hour video essay, and he has like 40 of them. This, I'm a lore guy. I love lore. I'll read anything, right? I was really into Dune, really into Game of Thrones. So I really like intricate worlds and fantasy worlds that are really well done. And so I started looking into Warhammer. Again, that was 2019. After a couple of years, I'd read a bunch of books. I'd watched a lot of videos. I had started, my friends were asking me kind of about it. And so in 2022 was when I made my first Warhammer TikTok. Before that, I was doing like Apex edits and stuff like that. But I was like, this is something I want to talk about. I can yap for a little bit about Warhammer and see where that goes. And it kind of took off. People were really like, oh, man, like you explained this really well. And so I was like, okay, I'll keep doing it. I'll keep reading. I'll keep seeing what this community is about. And so here we are a couple of years later.
The funny thing you said is you just started reading it. Knowing where to start and how to understand it, I would say, is the hardest part because there's so much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, the Horus Heresy, you can start there, but it's overwhelming for a new player. I look at Warhammer for books and lore like somebody starting out in World of Warcraft 20 years later with 20 years worth of content to go through to catch up. There's so much, and having that avenue to get into it is really the barrier of entry is hard.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I agree. I think when I started, I looked online. Everybody, there's a ton of beginner book guides by everybody and their mother. So just kind of looking through those, I was like, all right, everybody's kind of saying the same things. Night Lords, Omnibus, maybe Dark Imperium, Horus Rising, definitely. I just kind of was like, where's the beginning? Right. I am one of those people who commits. And so when I was getting into Warhammer, I was like, I'm going to learn as much as I can about this. So where's the beginning? They're like, Horus Rising is the beginning. Cool. So I was like, I'll just read the Horus Heresy. I didn't know that that's what people were not doing. I didn't know people were just kind of bouncing around and reading what they wanted. And so I got to about 15 books in, and I started learning like, oh, okay, maybe people don't just complete this. But I was like, now it's a challenge, right? Now it's something that it's like, there's 60 books. At this point when I was reading, the last 4 or 5 hadn't come out yet from the Siege of Terra. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to catch up to see, like, I'm going to read all of them. I'm going to read every single Horus Heresy book. I'm going to catch up to the Siege of Terra. And by the time the last book of the Siege of Terra comes out, I'll be like caught up in reading it. And I finished the second to last book, I think 4 hours before I went to the Warhammer store to pick up the last book.
Wow.
And it was like a 1.5-year sprint of reading, trying to get all
God.
And so you did it all paper, no Kindle?
No, I did the vast majority Audible. At that point, the job I was working, I was driving a lot. So, I was driving 2 to 3 hours a day. It was really easy to just get the audiobook, put it on, and kind of run through them. For me, I think because of the job I had at the time, it was the best way. I wish I could have done paper. I read a lot faster than I listen because they're acting, right? They're performing, so there's lots of dramatic pauses and like it's way slower to listen to Audible. But the Horus Heresy is the vast majority of it is out of print, and those books, some of them $200 just to get a physical copy.
Oh, I meant even like the Kindle version, because you can get all the books via Kindle.
Oh, yeah. No, I hate e-readers in Kindle. When I'm on my phone or I'm on an e-reader, I just cannot pay attention for whatever reason that is. On my phone, I know it's because I'll just get distracted by my phone. But yeah, it's
What I have found too is with my Audible subscription, and when I'm listening to a book, I actually put it on 1.5.
Okay, yeah.
Where you still get the acting, but it's a little bit faster.
Yeah,
but
I
it's
do like
not
1.25 or something like
yeah,
that.
That's the money spot. That's the money spot.
I've tried at 2, and even podcasts I've tried to listen to 2, and it sounds like they're talking way too fast.
Yeah.
It takes it away. But I do I do love Star Wars books on Audible because they're
Yes.
fully acted. They're sound effects. I mean, you're basically listening to a movie
Oh yeah, it's an audio drama. I love Star Wars books on Audible. Yeah.
for sure.
So, I was taking a look at your channel. I went a little bit deep. Obviously, you put out some great content.
Thank you.
Recently, you went through like a channel reboot, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit. What has that process been like for you transitioning to now we're covering Warhammer 100%?
Yeah, so that transition was something that I'm a very intentional person. I try to plan things out before I do them. I don't like to do a bunch of spontaneous stuff, especially when it comes like I've been on the internet a long time. I know what it means to build a brand. I know what it means to kind of market yourself in a way for longevity. So when I was kind of switching over from like Apex edits and everything, I had already had a routine of posting twice a day. I play Apex a lot. I got a lot of clips. I'd edit a couple to some songs, put them out every single day, or at least as much as I could. I think I would skip a day or here or there, one video a day. And so when I had that routine, when I started doing Warhammer, I'd put out one video. I think the very first one, never forget, Marcus Vance, great guy on YouTube. He does like not reviews, but like talks about swords and history and weapons. Great YouTube channel. But he had done a TikTok about how smart different super soldiers were, and Space Marines were a part of that. And I stitched it, and I was, it was like just a counterpoint to what he was saying. And that one kind of like, it was the first time I got like some numbers, and I was like, oh, like people like hearing me talk about this. Maybe they don't like seeing the same Apex edit that they've seen 180 times. Maybe, this is a little bit more novel. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed making that video. It wasn't nearly as painstaking as having to open up Premiere and, wait for things to render and put RSMB and stuff. It wasn't having to like do that. I could just turn on my camera and talk, right? And so I did that. And I still wanted to stay, kind of true to what I was doing. I was still playing Apex a lot. So what I started doing, instead of posting 2 Apex TikToks a day, I'd do 1 Apex and then 1 Warhammer. I think what really killed my Apex content was I did a fan cast of all the Primarchs. That was really, that a lot of people really enjoyed. And I was like, man, I really enjoyed making that. It was really fun to like talk to people about this. Because in Apex clips, it's not like people in the comments talking to you about it. It's like, nice. Cool. Flame emoji. Thumbs up.
Right. Nice kill.
But Warhammer really allowed me to interact with my audience in a way that I wasn't able to before, because it's something to talk about. It's not just them watching me. It's a dialogue between us about something that we both love.
No, you did that transition beautifully. And the way you speak about it, I can tell that you're very passionate about it. So it's so refreshing. I probably, in the last week, I've watched a lot of your stuff. So it's captivating.
That kind of blows me away still. I'm not going to lie to
Always. It always does.
That people will willingly watch my face is very crazy to me still. But
you got a nice face.
Yeah. But it's always hard to hear it because you're so critical of yourself.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with doing a podcast or streaming or anything. But do you prefer to make the short form videos, or do you prefer to make a longer form video?
Got you. I would probably prefer longer. As much as I'm never probably going to do a 3-hour video essay like Luton.
Oh, I think you should.
That's my lore idol, right? And so I definitely want to do longer form content. I still do have a job and a fiance and life outside of this, so it's a lot easier to do short form right now. It's a lot easier to I still have been putting out 2 TikToks a day for over 2 years now. at this point. And that's even like when I go on vacation. When I was in Rome last year, I was posting TikToks about Angron because, you know, the connection. Like I will do it because I like the consistency, and I like having a big repository of knowledge. That's what I wanted my channel to be. I wanted you to be able to come to my channel and just type in Hoodguard and whatever you wanted about, you know, Warhammer, and a video would pop up to explain it to you. That's kind of what my goal is. So, you know, I think kind of having all those things kind of coalesce together is what has made this really fun.
Nice.
So what is your favorite book and your favorite game from the Warhammer series?
Can I interject before that?
Sure.
We have an absolute encyclopedia about Warhammer with us today. Our audience may not be privy to a lot of that information, and obviously I want them to go to your channel for it.
Sure.
What on earth are we talking about for the last 40 minutes? What is Warhammer? If you could break it down on the spot.
Ooh. All right.
Break it down. Give it to me quick.
Got you. Okay, so Warhammer is an epic space opera that takes place 40,000 years in the future of our universe. Okay? It's about a galaxy-spanning human empire that fights against different aliens and also demons from an alternate hell realm. Think that's it. The main characters are super soldiers called Space Marines that are... Actually, I'm not going to get into that because we're going to get really lost. And every single human serves a god emperor who is a half dead, half alive super magic man on a throne. That's Warhammer.
Oh, wow, that's such a great explanation.
It was the perfect man for the job, dude.
Wow. Because I'm thinking about what I think about Warhammer, and that is exactly it. Some crazy
never-ending war.
Yeah.
Never-ending
The
war.
final frontier.
And there are not a lot of Warhammers in it either.
No.
Surprisingly, there's some, but maybe a little misleading.
I'm going to circle back probably 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you love the Dune lore.
Oh, yeah.
Are you excited for the new Dune MMO?
Yes, I actually just signed up or tried to sign up for their closed beta today. Did my whole survey and everything. I really, really like Dune. It was my first introduction really into like high sci-fi. Kind of in high school, my friend was like, "Yo, you should come watch this movie. It's called Dune." And this is like the 1984 Dune, right? The David Lynch Dune. And I was hooked. I got all the books. I read the first 6. I've read some of the, the Brian Herbert ones. They're all right. But Dune lore. I mean, it's also like I see Dune as to sci-fi as Lord of the Rings is to fantasy, right? Like Lord of the Rings is the father of fantasy. I see Dune as that same for sci-fi, and you can see all the elements that are drawn from it, even in Warhammer, right? There's so many parallels from like they took Dune and were like, let's just ramp it up and make it real silly and really extra, and then we'll call it Warhammer.
Okay, back.
Back to it.
Yeah, so your favorite Warhammer game and then your favorite book.
Got you. Warhammer game. I'm not going to say Space Marine 2. I feel like that's easy. It's very good. I love it. We're gonna pretend that hasn't come out. Everything before that. I think my favorite game is probably Chaos Gate Demon Hunters.
Okay.
Really, really good, strategy, XCOM-esque game that features Grey Knights, who are some of my favorite Space Marines. I also really like Mechanicus. I think it has one of the best video game soundtracks ever. And also is, again, that same kind of like strategy, XCOM-esque game. So those are my favorites. Favorite book? Let me look over here.
Which one's got the most bends in the pages?
So I am very careful with my books because they cost a lot, and they cost a lot to replace. I'm actually getting my collection insured because it's at this point I probably need to. But my favorite book is probably Deathfire. It's one of the Salamander books in the Horus Heresy, and I love it because it is. A lot of people don't like Nick Kime's Salamander stories for whatever reason. in the Horus Heresy. Vulcan Lives is a little. They say Vulcan lives in it a lot. It's kind of like very redundant in that way. But Deathfire, I think, shows Space Marine emotion in a way that you don't get in a lot of the other books. It shows them grieving in a way that is really human that you don't get to see in Space Marines. And so that's why that's my favorite.
Nice.
See, and I've never even heard of it.
Write that down. Write that down.
I am right now. That's why I have my phone out.
Jeez. So, Hoodguard.
Yes.
We talked about your favorite game and your favorite book.
Mm-hmm.
Warhammer is so all-encompassing in the different avenues that you can actually jump into this world.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite way to consume it? Is it in the books or the video games? Is it the hobby? What is it?
Yeah, no, it's definitely books. There are, I think what drew me to Warhammer right off the bat is, all the books and series I read before. Maybe at most is what, like Game of Thrones at like 5 or 6 books, Harry Potter at like 7 or whatever. But when I came to Warhammer and saw that it was hundreds and hundreds of books, and dozens, couple dozen authors, right? So a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different people, kind of with their hands in the same story. That's what kind of drew me to it. And so, I'm sorry, I lost track. What was your question again?
Your favorite way to consume Warhammer nonsense?
I love books so much. I'm just getting lost. But yeah, no, that's it. Is because of the bunch of different perspectives, people writing for different factions and being able to see how their different takes on it, is, I think, really meta in a way, right? The whole thing with Warhammer lore is that it's supposed to be unreliable narrators. It's supposed to be propaganda. And so when you have a bunch of different perspectives of people all talking about the same thing, that fills in that world of propaganda. It's like, oh, this person heard this thing, right? And it has this perspective from this faction, but this one has a completely different one, and how they view each other. One of my favorite books that I read recently is Blades of Damocles. And it's about the Tau fighting against the Imperium, one of their first like big wars. And how they view each other is the same. Like they both view each other as these barbarians, and like, but why that is very different. Like these barbarians over here don't see the Emperor's light, but these barbarians over here are just warlords who destroy everything. And it's like, well, there's some truth to both of that, and there's also some some self-telling truth to both of that. And so that's why I love consuming the lore. It's just really
But that also makes it difficult as well, because for somebody new to come into it, you don't know what's real and what's propaganda, and that is almost the mysteriousness that you have to keep reading, because you're going to find that, oh my God, that's not what that book I read 3 months ago or 3 books ago said, and then it makes you want to go back to that book to find that paragraph that contradicts what you're reading right now.
Yeah, and I think that's what that's the first thing you have to learn when you get into Warhammer, is that it's not immutable. In fact, it's very mutable. Every edition, something changes in the lore. The lore is never like a lot of people will try to hold the lore in this kind of like, pedestal of this is it, this is law. And it's like, bro, like 10 years ago it was very different. 10 years before that, it was very different. 10 years before that, it was a completely different game. Right. And so like being able to kind of take that with a grain of salt, like everything you read, it can change at any moment. Now, the quality of that change is definitely up for debate. How they change things, definitely up for debate. But it being very fluid in nature is Warhammer. It just is fluid like that. So I definitely understand that it's very hard for people to get into it because of that. And that's like one of the reasons I started switching over to my content to that, was to help people get into the lore and help people find their avenue so they're not lost in this ocean.
Yeah, digging through the mess.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite shows of all time is The Band of Brothers, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Still to this day, I can watch it, and I finally found this book. It's called The Founding.
Oh, yeah, Gaunt's Ghosts.
And everything that I've read about has said it's basically Band of Brothers in Warhammer.
Yeah. Definitely is.
And I ordered that book 4 months ago.
Still not in?
Tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that my life is about to be consumed.
Yeah.
Whatever I'm reading is not getting read.
No, Gaunt's Ghost is like, if I were to go back in my comments, it probably is the number one way people have gotten into Warhammer, book wise. Like when people
Really?
Yeah, and I think I have a very different view on this, and I think that's okay. You know, everybody gets into it the same way. I like Warhammer because it's silly. I like the over the top. I like the extra nature of it. I think people who have been in that type of fandom before, or even have enjoyed that type of IP before, when they come to Warhammer, want something relatable, right? And a lot of people, when they read Gaunt's Ghost and they see, it's like people love just regular humans in this world doing all the crazy stuff that everybody else does, like facing the crazy things that Space Marines do. People love those stories. Guard stories are like the number one thing that people enjoy, and I get it. It's the, like you said, it's the Band of Brothers. I'm more of a Pacific man myself, but that kind of, you know, that war story of a group of guys going in and facing,
Yes.
you know, enormous odds. I love those books too. It's just not what got me into Warhammer. Right, but it is like one of the number one ways. I think a great book, if anybody's looking for recommendations, that kind of follows that's new. It's called Deathworlder. Follows some Catachans who are kind of like the Rambos of the Warhammer universe. It follows them, and they're kind of, you know, doing this really, really hopeless mission on a Tyranid infested world, and it gives that same kind of vibe. So another recommendation for people, again, trying to get into Warhammer, want something relatable about just some people who are humans like me and you, maybe a little bit more well-traveled, but humans like me and you, you know, out there fighting the good fight.
Yeah, 4 months. It's been a 4-month back order. I found out about this at one of the GW stores in West Hartford, Connecticut, and the guy was talking to me, and he's like, what do you really want to read? I was like, I don't know. I've read this. And he's like, do you like the Band of Brothers? And I said, yeah. Love it. It's one of the best shows ever made. And he said, you have to read this book. And I was like, great, where is it? And he goes, we don't have that here. What do you mean? And I was like, well, so I went to Amazon. Amazon didn't have it. And then I started searching for it, and I found somewhere that said it was coming in soon. So you basically order it, and then when it ships, and I've been waiting for months.
Welcome to GW, man.
Oh,
yeah.
I've never been a collector before. I've never collected anything, even when I was a kid. And now I would definitely call myself a collector of Warhammer books, and like having to go through like the realization that these things are very limited and they're very hard to find. That gathering thing that Feta was talking about, it just activated in real life. And I was like, I need them all. And so, you know, I look basically every week on eBay, Half Price Books, and thriftbooks.com. Every single week looking for different books. I'll go to a couple of stores every week because they'll just get random shipments of Horus Heresy books that are out of print in and stuff. But it's a thing. Like, you have to actively do that. And I'm super lucky to have a Games Workshop store near me, because it allows me to go into the store and they're able to. I don't think I've missed a pre-order for a limited edition book I wanted since I started going to the store, because the online site.
That's it. Thriftbooks.com.
That's it. Love thrift books. But yeah, it's
that just
very thankful that I have a store near me.
Wow. It's hard, right? And then the other thing is, here comes the old man, is some of the books print is so small.
Yeah.
Just get your readers out, dude.
I don't need glasses.
You should.
But I don't need glasses. My eyes are 20/20. It's just that the print is so small. I should get a magnifying glass.
Or like reading glasses, because that's what they do.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'll do that, because some of the print in the books is so small, and you're like, why? Just add more pages or make the book a little bit fucking bigger. Like, goddamn. Why are you ruining my life?
One of the worst things about the collecting is, and this might just be my organizational brain, is that the books are all just different sizes.
Yes.
Even and they'll have like one print of one book. There's a series I have. It's supposed to be 9 books. The 8th one just came out, right? The 7th book is smaller than every other book. And it's like, it doesn't fit in line. It's not the same height. It's not the same thickness. And I don't know why they did that. And it is getting on my nerves. But yeah, all the books are like that. They'll all come out in different sizes. I think if you're looking for something that's easier to read, the hardbacks have larger words and are more spaced out. But those, the little paperbacks, like the Horus Rising one, it's like
Yes.
it's like a little Bible that you're trying to read. So, yeah.
Well, I think they did that on purpose to make it, because it's the beginning. They want you to think you are reading the Bible of Warhammer.
Yeah, man, yeah, and it is.
Yes, that's what I mean. I have a super important question,
Yeah.
and we will judge you
Okay.
hard.
Sure.
Who's your favorite Star Wars character?
Oh, okay. Favorite Star Wars character. I'm gonna say this because I had their lightsaber when I was growing up. The first Star Wars book I ever completed was of this character, and me and this actor went to the same college. That's gonna be Mace Windu, Samuel L. Jackson.
Shatterpoint?
Shatterpoint. You know it. Very first Star Wars book that I ever wrote.
Okay,
read,
I have a question. So before Warhammer, Star Wars was my book. Like Star Wars is my sci-fi, right?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I would read every Star Wars book I could consume, and the movies. Have you listened to the new unabridged Shatterpoint?
I have not. I did hear about it.
Okay.
But I have not listened to it yet.
When I tell you it's that good,
Okay.
it's that it is worth your Audible credit.
Okay. And and I use my Audible credit every single month, so I'll definitely check it out. I think I like to take like 2 to 3 week-long breaks from like Warhammer books every now and then, just to like cleanse my palate, because I'm one of those people. I'll read 3 to 4 books at the same time, like switching between them every day. So it's a lot to consume, and I don't need so much like Imperium jargon rattling around in my head all day.
Sure.
And just like fake high Gothic for some reason. So. Yeah.
Do you find it easier to follow the books if you're reading 2 or 3 at a time?
Yeah, I find it easy to switch between them. I can understand it when you start like getting mixed up. I think the trick for me is to read about very different factions, because Warhammer is so large. When you read about different factions, it is a different story. Like there's a central like world that they're all in, but like Eisenhorn is very, very different than reading about Gillim and what he's doing, right? So the trick is like when I'm reading a bunch of different Warhammer books, they're all about a different faction or a different thing, so I can kind of keep track of them that way.
So I'm going to read you this. Mace Windu owes Qui-Gon Jinn a favor, and the time has come for him to repay his debt. Mace Windu, the Glass Abyss, arrives on 10/15. You can get the first excerpt on StarWars.com. Brand new Star Wars book.
Okay.
Coming out
with Mace Windu. Right.
With Mace Windu coming out in 13 days.
Put that on my list now.
Yeah, it's called the Glass Abyss. I pre-ordered. Already pre-ordered. But that one I will be probably doing the Audible because it's so fantastic. I hope it's I would imagine it's either going to be Jonathan Davis or Mark. Oh my God, why can't I think of his last name? The voice actor. Either way, they'll probably be narrating it, and it's so good.
Yeah. Do you know who's the author of that book?
I just read this today. Oh, it's by Steve Barnes.
Steve Barnes. Okay.
Here, I'm gonna send this to you. Thank
you. Yeah, the one thing that surprised me when I was getting into Warhammer is how accessible the authors are. They are such like very down to earth people. Like when I have questions about like pronunciation of a name or like, hey, where does this take place in the timeline? I'll just at them on Twitter. They'll answer, and will help you kind of understand the book. So I really like it's. I don't think I've ever been a part of any franchise where I could do that, except maybe I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the author Brent Weeks. He does really fantastic fantasy and really good magic system development. But he also really accessible guy when it comes to his books. But that was new for me. It's not like you're reading Harry Potter. It's not you can go ask J.K. Rowling. Not that you would want to, but no, it's not you can go ask her anything. But yeah,
come on,
it's truly a community.
I would definitely like to ask J.K. Rowling like where your head is at. Like, forget about all the other stuff.
I'm
just like
by her on Twitter, so I couldn't ask her.
That's well, I think
she got drunk and retconned all her books.
Yeah. I just, I would love just to speak with some of these authors just to find out like where was your head at when you started writing this.
Yeah.
And it grew into something so big, whether it's Warhammer or Star Wars, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, all that. Just to be able to get in somebody's head to understand how that all came out of nowhere. Even Stephen King. Think about the fucked up shit that guy's written about.
Oh yeah. I can't imagine what he what like goes on in his head at all. But yeah.
Imagine he takes mushrooms. Do you think he has a good trip or a bad trip?
Oh, it's got to be bad.
It's got to be
horrible.
It's got to be awful.
The things that are like that your mind can make up.
Like sober
when you want them
allegedly
to. Sober.
No,
Yeah, right.
I think he's eating mushrooms and going into one of those like those deprivation tanks where you can't just float. Yes, and that's when all these books come from because who the
demons in his head.
Yeah, but then
Holy
again,
cow.
And that's where I'll bring it back to Warhammer, where all these different authors have these different takes. Sure, there's your general. Here's what your characters are.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what we're going to give you. We're going to give you 5 paragraphs of them. Go.
Yeah.
Create.
I think the cool thing is like Games Workshop I think has been very intentional in the type of authors they hire because they hire a lot of ones that have experience doing something completely different, right? I forgot his name. One of the authors. No, Robbie McNiven. He wrote Oaths of Damnation, which is the book I'm reading right now. Fantastic book about the Exorcist. But he is like a historian, and you can kind of see that in his writing, right? One of my favorite authors is Dr. Jude Reed. She's a surgeon, right? But she also writes books and has written a couple of fantastic Warhammer books. And you see like when she talks about like fight scenes or like when someone gets injured, you can see that expertise in there, right? Like she is a surgeon. She knows exactly how these things are supposed to look or feel or sound. And so I think that's one of the best parts about like being a Warhammer book fan is the authors.
Yeah. I have another question about Warhammer.
Sure.
You're fighting a good fight.
Okay.
What legion are you part of? Or chapter? Whatever way you want to go.
Yeah, suure. I mean,
you put on the suit,
same.
What color is it?
The answer's the same. It's green. It's salamanders.
The Fire Boys. Okay.
Yeah. I like the salamanders so much because they are like, Space Marines are all bad, even salamanders, but they have a humanness to them that is very different from every other Space Marine chapter, right? Not only that, they really spoke to me because one of my larger parts of my career was working in a makerspace and kind of teaching kids like, how to be a maker, right? Teaching them how to use tools and kind of connect that to their schoolwork. And being a maker is like what salamanders are. They're craftsmen. They forge and they really care about their communities too, right? They still stay in contact with their families, and like that's really important to me. I've done a lot of community work in my life, especially in college, and so like all these kind of parallels lined up for me to like really like the salamanders. And at the cherry on top is that they're like the black representation in Space Marines and like the legions, right? And so like all of that kind of lined up. I was like, those are my guys. Salamanders, let's do it. When I first learned about all of them.
Awesome. Are we moving towards our normal questions?
Yeah, I've been working.
Is it time?
Is
it time?
No, not yet. But
Not yet?
I do have to ask.
Yeah.
What would you say your 3-month goal, your 6-month goal, in 1 year from now goal would be for your channel and your creation?
Yeah, so 3-month goal, I want to really establish myself in kind of like the miniature painting like content creation space. Like I do a lot of lore. That's what my TikTok is for. I can't really do that all the time on Twitch because it's such a lot. It's a lot of talking. I've tried doing lore talks, for a couple of hours, and it's just like I could not do this every day. Painting, however, it's cathartic. It's really relaxing for everybody. I get a chance to talk about people, about lore, but it's not focused on that. I have to talk the whole time. So I really kind of want to shift at least my streaming content more over to painting. There's a wonderful community of painters over there. And we just got the category, I think yesterday. There's a new category on Twitch that's miniatures and models.
Yep.
So that seems to be growing. 6 months. I really want to have either a more solid partnership with the Army Painter, who they've been fantastic. They've really kind of like taken me in and really given me some opportunities that have been really great. Or another type of hobby company, do some type of partnership with them. I've done a lot of reviews on products, and I'm kind of getting good at that, getting into the review bag a little bit, and trying to again introduce people to painting, right? So that kind of beginner thing, and that's what my reviews have been. It's kind of like, is this good for a new painter? Does a new painter need this coming from someone who's new? And so that's kind of what I want to do in the 6 month span. In a year, I want to have gone to at least one Warhammer conference, or convention. Adepticon is in March. I'm definitely.
Where is that?
That's going to be
Chicago.
in Milwaukee.
Oh, it's in Milwaukee now?
Generally is Chicago, but they switch. It's Milwaukee this year for whatever reason. So gonna go to that. Want to enter a couple more painting competitions, and kind of start like really doing that, because I really do like painting. I feel like I was missing a kind of artistic outlet. I have training in drawing. I have training in graphic design. I used to do emotes and Twitch overlays and stuff for people. And so like I haven't been doing that in a while. I haven't had some type of art. And so earlier this year, in like January, when I was doing work, I was watching painting streams and like watching painting videos, because they were, like you said, super relaxing. Always nice music on. It's really nice to see good talent and like watch something come to life from this gray plastic. And so in March of this year, I was finally like, you know what? I've been going to the Warhammer store. They offer the free painting class. If the manager at my local store is really great. And so I just asked him, and I was like, could you give me and my girlfriend, now fiance, like a lesson in, painting one day? He did. And I was like, all right, I'm going to buy the starter set. I bought it, and I was like, man, I like this. This is nice. And it just went from there.
I hope, see, you're making me want to do it. So I bought a set a while ago, and it's just been sitting in a box.
Yeah.
And I know that it's not going to be great. It takes time, right?
Yeah, it does.
This podcast didn't sound the way it does today on episode 1, right? Gain was all the way up. It was like an ASMR with a squeaky chair, But you make me want to paint, and then Feta, watching him, and then I would say the coolest part too is when I'll use Feta, you go over to Feta's house and you go to play Shatterpoint, and all of the minis that we're using in the terrain, Feta painted.
Yeah.
And you look at it, you're like, oh snap, he's got a booger in his nose, you know what I mean? And you're like, that's awesome. But he's like, that was a mistake. Well, no, it wasn't. It's meant that way.
Yeah. No, I think, and miniature painting is a really accessible, like, art hobby. I think like, overall, like, drawing is like, oh, look at all the masters of drawing that there have been over hundreds of years, right? Miniature painting is relatively new in the way that we are conceiving of it today, and it's like all the great painters that I've like have followed, like Walter's Workshop and Jamie Daggers and all these other people who are like really good painters that I follow on Twitch, are like, they were not artists. They didn't have any art training before. They were all, And people I follow who are like data. I think that's what Pete the Wargamer was, like a data scientist or a programmer before this, right? And it's like, oh, it's something that you can pick up, and it really does make me see that like everyone has their medium, right? Whether that be drawing, whether that be photography, whether like everybody has an art medium, whether you have discovered it or not. Yeah.
I could talk to you about painting minis for a long time, dude.
Oh, dude, it makes me so happy. Feta, ask him the most important question on the whole show.
All right, so we have one question that we ask every guest that comes on Working Class Nerds. It is the most important question.
Okay.
You have to answer it. You can answer it as truthfully as possible.
Okay.
No answer is wrong except for one.
Okay.
You answer it wrong, and the show's done here. We might not even publish it.
Well, no, we're going to publish it, but it's going to end right here.
Abrupt.
Okay.
We're done after this.
My mouse cursor is on the stop button.
This is
Yep.
a test. Okay.
Yeah. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Ooh, okay. This one I feel like that's good. It's not vanilla if that's like the bad answer.
No.
That's Marcus's answer.
Yeah.
It's actually it's really specific. It's there's a place in the city here called Ginny's Ice Cream.
Oh, no.
It's called Sweet Summer Corn.
Okay.
And it is
Woo.
such a good flavor.
Dude,
Woo.
I was
You got
so worried.
sweating.
I was sweating that you were going to say it. Do you want to know what the wrong answer is?
What's the wrong answer?
Pistachio.
Oh, that's gross. Yeah, that's the wrong answer.
All right, so
Yeah.
so we have decided that you are a Dexter level psychopath.
Okay.
That if you like that, and we've had 2 people on the show that have actually said that, and they're complete psychopaths, and we let them know that.
Yeah. As you should.
You can like pistachio
Yes,
ice cream.
sure.
It just cannot be your favorite flavor.
No, that's crazy. No. I pistachio ice cream is okay. I think there's some other things you can add to it to make it better. But
To say it's your favorite.
8 flavors off my dome that are better than pistachio.
Like
Yeah.
cookies
Yeah, oh,
and
yeah.
cream.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, regular
Strawberry.
vanilla is better.
vanilla.
Yeah.
Yes, vanilla. Yep. Oh, man. All right. This one is really near and dear to me because I remember my favorite in forever. What would you say your favorite moment in content creation is? So up to today.
Okay, this one's a little crazy. I think it's really funny. My fiance hates this story because she was worried about me the whole time. I did long ago. I think this is like fall winter of 2019.
So like in a galaxy far, far away.
In a far, far, far away. Back when I wasn't 30, I did a shot for followers stream.
Oh, shit.
And I had just joined my first stream team. It's called Omen Origins. Loved those guys. The owner of the team came through in that stream. And he was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I was like, "Yeah, we're just doing a shot for followers stream." Had a bottle of tequila. And he was like, "Oh, are you? Okay, bet." He brought like the whole team. And I was maybe like 2 days into like being in the team. He brought the whole team.
God.
Over. I ended up taking 31 shots before I was like,
Brought to the hospital?
no. No. Luckily, no. I passed out for a couple of hours and then ate Korean food and was fine. But it was, that was the most memorable, because I think that was also when I had the most people in stream I've ever had. It was maybe 80 something.
Wow.
All right.
I was like, this is an insane thing that's happening right now. But yeah.
I can't believe you chased 31 shots of tequila with kimchi.
Yeah, it was
That's a
Dosat
choice.
bibimbap.
Okay.
Spicy seafoods Dosat bibimbap.
Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a different man.
Oh.
Could not do that today.
I'm a shot for follower. We should get Chimeri to do that.
It was a crazy time.
That's
You need a waiver for that, dude.
Yeah.
You need to sign a waiver.
I would not advise it. And my fiance, she was watching at that point. She was my girlfriend then, but she was watching me at that point. And when I had
She
gone
follow?
off, yeah. I think she'd already followed at that point. But she, I had logged off and she didn't hear from me for like 2 hours because I was passed out. She thought I was gone, and so
God,
the messages of just question marks.
Yeah.
Please tell me you're alive.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty much Hoodguard everywhere except on Instagram where it's Hood_guard. But yeah, type in Hoodguard, YouTube, TikTok mainly for lore, YouTube for kind of news and reviews, and then Twitch for some painting and some gaming. Hoodguard everywhere.
What are you guys talking about in here?
Find out next episode of Working Class Nerds.